Sorry about that. Yeah, he's good. No, he's got sound on. Okay. Let's see what we got here. Let me play with this. Let's just check out something. All right, there we go. All right, that should be a little bit better for everybody. Let's see what we got. Let's see. Okay, so now I think we should be able to hear some stuff. Save that. How are we doing there? Great, excellent. Okay, so let's get it going. Okay, so we're gonna start now. I think. Do you want to take a moment, just a second? Okay, so we're going to get started now that everything is working technically. Great. Good to have everybody here. Really excited. Welcome to Is He or She Right for Me? We're really excited to have you.
Hi, welcome. Thanks for being here.
So what we're going to start with is we just want to just go ahead, if you would, in the chat window and just share some of the stuff you've been working through, or any thoughts you have, just, what got you to take the course. All right. Well, probably a lot of different reasons why people would be taking the course. So good to have that. So we're going to take a moment. Let's introduce ourselves.
Yes, Gabriel de Cristofaro, my wonderful husband. He created the Inviting Mr. Right dating classes about 5 years ago. He was featured on NBC and ABC. And he's been involved in personal development training for about 14 years. He is really passionate about people transforming their lives to get better results. And it's a pleasure to be married to him and be doing this class together.
Great. So Nicole, who I love and adore, years of dedicated personal growth training. She's been doing private client love mentor coaching to good success, and recently winning the Team Leader Award for her 90-day Pacesetter leadership training, which is a personal development course that she's been involved in. Both of us have been in that area, as we feel there's an opportunity to really maximize human potential. And so she has a loving heart for coaching others struggling in love. And now that we found each other, we created Inviting Mr. and Mrs. Right to share our success and teach others how to attract better dates and relationships. So we want to just say thanks for joining us.
And let's get started.
Yeah, let's get started. Is he or she right for me?
There are many reasons why a couple may not work out. Today, we're going to be focusing on how matching your core life values can make a difference in the failure or success of dating and relationships. If you've been struggling or just looking for new insights and tools, this is the great class that, will give you a lot of insight into that. And it's going to maybe offer some new ideas to take with you in your dating experience.
And there's a lot of different reasons, in life why you might not find the one. People, why did it get started, and then sometimes why doesn't it last? There's just a lot of different reasons. For us, we want to focus on this particular class on focusing on really the values, which is what we're going to talk about next. Because values are one of the core reasons that relationships work. So if you've had other reasons that you've come up with in the past, we're going to narrow it down today. So, understanding why core values are important to healthy relationships. This is what we're going to cover in the course. This is the bullet points of what we're going to cover. We're going to look at relationship archaeology to uncover your dating and relationship history. What's happened in the past that worked, what didn't work. We're also going to do, at the end, life values assessment tool. So we can work and you can discover what really matters to you the most. Because sometimes in relationships, those get missed or compromise happens. And before you even consider if he or she is the one, you need to understand who you are and what your core values are. So understanding these topics will provide clarity and confidence in your future love choices. So now while we're doing this,
yes, we would love for you to join us in our social media outlets that we're always posting relevant topics to. So, be sure to join, chat, share, and be a part of it. Twitter, it's at Inviting Right. And if you want to post anything or give a shout out to us, use hashtag MMR Tips. And then as well on Facebook, we are Inviting Right. So facebook.com//Inviting Right. Of course, our website is www.invitingright.com. And if you need to contact us, we can be reached at info@invitingright.com. So please like our Facebook page and join in the conversations.
Great. So what are core life values? Well, values are the things that matter most to a person. They are the personal gauges or internal barometers of what's really important to a person and what isn't. They're the fundamental beliefs, and a lot of these are formed in the early childhood, in the earlier years. We get from family teaching us. Anything we form in our youth, we put into those values for the rest of our life. And of course, as many of you may know, that will impact your relationships. It'll impact your entire life. And of course, in the Inviting Mr. and Mrs. Right, we're going to look specifically at where does it affect your love life, because your love life is one of the most important things. Here are the major areas:
career,
money,
health,
friends and family,
significant other or romance,
personal growth,
physical environment, meaning your home or space,
and then, of course, how you handle fun and recreation or relate to fun and recreation.
Shared interests versus core values. It's important to note that there's a difference between shared values and shared interests, because many couples in healthy relationships will have differing interests or hobbies. However, what's key to long-lasting fulfillment of the relationship is that they instead share the values. If you have shared values, regardless of your interests, your relationship has a good chance of success. On the other hand, if you have no shared values but lots of common interests, you might have a great time together for a while, but when it comes to making decisions about marriage, children, and careers, you could find that you lack the strong foundations that move you forward.
Relationship archaeology. Since psychology shows us that we develop our beliefs from our past, we can look at how we interacted with previous relationships and dates. Yes, some dates we want to forget. Some relationships we want to forget. However, there is insight we can uncover from them. So right now, take a few moments to reflect back on your past experiences. And of course, during this course in class, we certainly recommend you pull out some paper, pencil, pen, something to take notes with. What we want you to look at is what were some of the values in your previous relationships that caused conflict between the two of you. This is the area we're going to start with first, right? We're going to start with the areas that things didn't work out. We're going to give you, keep taking your time, write it down, think of anybody previously. And funny as it may be, you could even go down to, middle school to look at it, high school into adulthood. There's always some valuable information in there. So hopefully you got a few ideas written down. You can always go back to that later and fill that in. Right now, we want to talk about life values combinations. Some people overlook the impact of values when they are dating. Here are examples of how two people's values can match or mismatch. So right now, we're going to use health as an example, as an area of life that is a value. And specifically, we're going to talk about eating habits. Right? So there's also exercise, and other than that, right now we're just going to focus on eating. So you got person A, person B, can be a woman, a man, anything. Now notice if two people eat organic food, they both are a match. Also notice though, if two people eat fast food, they're also a match. So again, it's not about right and wrong, it's about matching, right? It's the values that that person has that matches. Now notice though, if person A eats organic food and you have person B who's always eating fast food, you're going to run into a mismatch. So we just wanted to give you a matrix to look at in terms of when you're considering how you match up with somebody. So something to look at as we move forward. This is how we're going to break it down when we look at combinations of values.
And it may seem small or it may seem unimportant. However, over time, it will impact the relationship. So it's really important to be clear about your values with someone else's.
When values don't match up. Even if people share similar interests, if their core values don't match up, they could struggle in the long term. Differing values about money is the biggest reason for breakups with couples. I mean, even seemingly good relationships encounter frustration, right? To mismatch values. So money. there's a study titled Examining the Relationship Between Financial Issues and Divorce. So looking into the future. It was published in 2012 in Family Relations Journal, and it looked at data from more than 4,500 couples as part of the National Survey of Families and Households. Now, most people have beliefs about the best way to use money, i.e., use money for status, use money for security, etc. Often these beliefs come from the family in which we grow up. You might imagine a spouse who feels that money is best used for status, married to someone who feels that money is best used for security, which are quite different. So you can see where this mismatch in money values could cause conflict. Even in the beginning, when you have people that are getting along and having fun, and it's not really heavy, you're only going on a date or you're buying a coffee, who pays for dinner, those might seem small. However, in the end, when it's expanded, you have one partner who wants to invest money in the long term, and you have another partner that says, no, I want a bigger house or I want a fancier car. That would certainly cause conflict in the end.
What were some of the values that united both of you in a previous relationship and worked to strengthen the relationship? As you look back at some of your previous relationships and dating experiences, what were those values? These are really great indicators for you to take into your new dating mindset so that you could start building a list of what you know works for you. So that's a good homework assignment. Definitely make that list. Be aware of those values that you know work for you. Becoming more aware of how your values match up when you're dating is key. So talk about what's important to you in the beginning and get to know someone early on. For example, if two people put career at a high value, there would be a natural understanding towards one another if one or both of them work 60 plus hours a week and or has a tendency to go into the office on weekends. That, they would be more understanding, the values would match up, whereas a couple where, the one person is working more hours and the other person doesn't really put career at a high value, they could get frustrated and feel that their partner isn't really putting time into the relationship and putting the career at a higher value. Staying true to you is really important. Some people tend to compromise their values to fit in with other people's values. It happens quite often. Sometimes people think that the positive qualities in the other person will make up for more important mismatched values. For example, if I'm not good with money or money's not a high value for me, and I find someone who does have money as a high value, I'm going to think I'll tend to go for, oh, well, that will affect me and maybe I'll get better or I'll value money more. And that's not necessarily the case. Another way people compromise their values is when they think they're lacking in an area. So they think a person with differing values will bring a positive balance to the relationship. Unfortunately, this causes more polarity between two people instead. In the end, these examples are not enough to sustain a long-lasting, fulfilling relationship, and they will affect the outcome. So remember, stay true to who you are and what you value most.
Moving upwards from the past. It's not hard to make decisions once you know what your values are. Roy E. Disney. So with change, always happening in us, how do you know if we need improvement in an area or we are stuck in compromise? Each of us is constantly making decisions based on what feels right to us. It's an inner feeling. And when you go along with something that doesn't fit with your core values, you will feel uncomfortable and unhappy. Core values can change over time as we grow and learn more about what's important to us as individuals. But it's unlikely that anyone will be happy in a relationship with someone whose core values conflict with their own. Now, notice this is different than if you want to change something in yourself and it's uncomfortable, right? If somebody, say, wants to do public speaking and it's uncomfortable, of course it'll be uncomfortable, yet you're making the choice to change. You may decide within a relationship it's worth changing for because you have so many shared interests. If you adapt to fit in with another person's religion, for example, unless you find a way to make it suit your own values, then it's unlikely that you will feel authentic within the relationship, and then you will feel compromised. So some things to consider as you look at what to do with your values.
So, how do you discover your values? Well, begin raising your awareness about your values by identifying the last time you got extremely upset with a person or a situation. Perhaps you had an argument or a fight. What was it about? What was going on for you? Not the surface details. Go deeper and really uncover what buttons were being pushed within you. On the other side, when was the last time you felt deeply engaged or fulfilled? You will get an insight into your values by assessing how you feel about something. Understanding your values, many people aren't very clear about what their values are. They don't know that they feel strongly about something until it's threatened. It's important to spend time getting to know yourself and what's important to you if you're going to find a compatible match. Also, examine what values you're looking for in a match. Are they values you actually have yourself, or are they things you aspire to?
So what we're going to do right now, we're just going to take a few minutes. We've given participants the link so that you could go download the Dr. Demartini Values Worksheet, which we just think is excellent to use. So we're going to actually take a moment now for you to go download it. Go grab it, and we're going to walk through it a little bit. This is the part of it we want to get you started on it. You'll continue it on your own later. We just want to guide you through the first parts of it, okay? So go ahead and take a moment now. You'll see in the chat window that there's a link. Go ahead and go grab that. Now this is what it should look like when you've pulled it up. Just make sure people can at least see the example.
So looking at this value assessment tool, you'll see that there's some questions below the information that Dr. DeMartini offers above in the few paragraphs. We're going to just go over the question part right now. You can read the rest on your own. So thinking about things you love to spend your time on. These are things you love in your home, the things you always have energy to do no matter how tired you are. Think about things that you find easy to spend money on and look to see where in your life you're focused and disciplined, and reflect on what the common things are that you love to think and talk about. So as you see, list 3 items per question. So for example, number 1, how do you feel your space? So that could be, I like, shopping, art, nice furniture. So, just different areas that you are excited about. So how do you spend your time? Movies, games, exercise. You'll see a common theme show up for you in determining what your high values are in these questions.
So as you go down the list, we're going to just kind of cover each one so you get the sense of it. Obviously, how do you spend your money? You can look at that. Where are you most organized? So where do you have commitment to organizing? Where are you most disciplined? And what do you think about most? You're going to think about in your mind, if you think about during the day, when you have time, if you're sitting on a bus or you're sitting in traffic, what are you thinking about most of the time? You thinking about other people? What are you thinking about doing? Do you have dreams you're thinking about? And then it continues, what do you envision or visualize the most? What do you internally dialogue about the most? So what are you talking about the most? Are you talking about creating something? Right now you're here, so you may be talking about how to find the match of your dreams, right? That might be something you talk about. Are you talking about a habit? Or are you talking about skiing or an activity?
So when you find that you have come up with all your answers to the questions, you're going to pick out those which stand out the most and seem to be the most important, and put them in order of most important down to least important. So you might have things in there that you don't really spend a lot of time thinking about, yet it came up in your answers. For example, if relationship comes up and yet you're not in a relationship, you might value it, but it might not be the most important to you at this time. So that's important to note, that certain values are important to you, just not at this point in your life.
So now we're going to do, now that you have that, just take a couple minutes if you want to get started to put in a couple ideas, if there's things that pop for you.
Or if you have any questions about this sheet that something isn't clear, please use your chat window and ask so we can answer those.
Or at a later time, if you're doing this on your own, you can send us an email and ask us a question that we could help clarify for you, okay? So right now we're going to take just a little bit and give you some time to just look it over.
Yeah, we'll take 2 minutes.
Okay, so 2 minutes, take your time. Great. So we've got some responses. People are starting to think. It's getting people to consider ideas about their values. And we encourage you to work on that sheet fully. Definitely go through that sheet and fill it all out until you get your top 3. I found that when I got to my value breakdown, the top 3 really opened my eyes to who I really was. You know, I came from California and moved to Colorado. And because I learned snowboarding and being outdoors, I thought that was one of my highest values. However, when I broke it down as far as real activity and time, how I filled my space, what I thought about, you know, all the questions on the sheet, I realized that actually learning, personal growth were actually higher on my values. And so I actually started changing some of my behavior, which will lead us to the next conversation, which I'm going to hand over to Nicole, unless she wants to share something she's learned about her values.
Oh, sure. Well, and just to tag on to Gabriel, once he, recognized what his true highest values were, then it made him able to be clear on what type of woman he wanted to date. This was before we were dating, of course. So, just that will help. Okay, so, for me, my values definitely have changed over time. I've noticed that. And as a result, I too have put learning and personal development at a higher value than some of my other high values, which were like fun and travel. So it does change during periods of your life. So just know that. So as we grow and learn more about what's important to us as individuals, it's unlikely that anyone would be happy in a relationship with someone whose core values conflict with our own. So, really be present to that when you are dating. You want to make sure that at some level your values either match right on, or at least in the top 10 you have similar values, even if like your number one's a little different from her number one, or his number one is different from hers. For example, traveling. When you're young, traveling might be a high value. However, if you start a family, traveling may no longer be a high value. Other things like career and your financial situation become a higher value.
So financial education can change a person's values about money. When younger, many people choose the immediate fun or gratification of spending money, whereas in later years, that same person may want their money to build into a retirement fund. Just to give you an idea that things do change. And so in terms of change, it's like what we were talking about earlier. That's different than changing your values for someone else, right? This is changing for you. And through our own research and understanding, it's shown that the best way to change your values is when the motivation comes from within inside you.
Not from an external force like somebody else.
Great. Do your values match up? Notice how dates talk about their core life values. Listen for clues like a detective, right? Remember the difference between shared interests and shared values. So money is the biggest relationship breaker. Talk about the financial future you and your potentials want. Your ideas of what you want to do with your money, where you want to go in the future. 2, if you're having fun, leave the heavy stuff for later. Bring it up, just do it sparingly. Sometimes people bring up the heavy value stuff right away. There's certainly some life value choices that make a lot of us uncomfortable. It doesn't mean you need to talk about it the first 10 minutes you meet somebody. However, be comfortable where you put it and be aware when you bring it into the conversations. Encourage the conversations to be about important life values, though. You may decide a relationship is worth changing for because you have so many shared interests. If you adapt to fit in with the other person's religion, for example, unless you find a way to make it suit your own values, then it's unlikely that you'll feel authentic with the relationship. You'll feel compromised.
That was what we brought up before, and we just want to bring it to a valid point. Just be aware of compromising your values for a relationship that you feel, oh, well, we have great chemistry and we get along really well. Later, it might bite you in the foot.
So something to consider, this is one of those I want to revisit, is it really is up to each individual to figure out whether they're compromising their values or whether it's for themselves. That's something is just a life journey we all have, right? Is to figure out, are you doing it for you? Are you doing it for them? Is it a compromise or is it actually helpful? Maybe, for example, you're motivated and you want to be healthy. You just haven't put habits in place to be healthy. Yet your partner has some healthy habits. So because you as an individual want to be healthy, it will work for you to adjust your habits and behavior because it matches what you want and matches your goals, if that makes sense.
And as usual, we would recommend that you have that open dialogue with a potential partner of, that was never really a value for me before, and I really want it to be. So I would love if I can be a part of this healthy lifestyle that you have. I'd love to share that with you. It could even bring you closer together and improve the relationship. So we have some solutions to